After 15 years in the painting industry, growing Foothills to $9 million in revenue, and managing our portfolio of companies to $37 million in annual revenue, I've seen what makes employees thrive and what has them go away. I have made every management mistake you can possibly imagine. But what that means is I can teach you some of the lessons I've learned so you don't have to make those same mistakes. Now, that being said, in this video, I'm going to show you the 8 biggest management mistakes we've made and exactly how to fix them. If your culture is all praise or all pressure, you're setting your people up to fail. Okay, so in managing a team and managing a company, we've made the mistake of both sides of the equation. So we've done it where it's been all about performance, right? All about numbers and drive and grind. What the problem with that is people don't have fun, they burn out, and they ultimately quit. We've done the other side of the equation where it's all praise, it's all acknowledgement, it's all good news, but then people aren't accountable to their results and their performance. So you want to find the middle ground. You want to strike a balance between acknowledgement and praise and showing people how well they're doing and really being a cheerleader for your team, but also holding them accountable to high performance, right? Giving them feedback early and often, taking feedback yourself, being a company that both prizes high performance, but also has a good time doing it and has a good time just in general, working together. So you got to find this balance, right? You've got to find a balance where there's still joy, it's fun, it's exciting, and you still want to make sure you're holding people accountable to performing at a high level. It's not an easy thing to do. One way we do it is in our team meetings. So we'll have a section where it's called weekly wins and acknowledgements, right? We shout out each other, we shout out ourselves, right? We acknowledge all the good things that are happening. Then at the same time, we look at where do improvements need to be made? Where do we miss targets the week prior or maybe the last 4 weeks? And how do we improve those things? So you've got to find this balance, the work hard, play hard balance. You got to find that. When you do, your company will really excel. Autonomy without time management is a recipe for chaos. So most hires have never been coached on time management, right? They're basically just given a list of things they got to do and they have to figure it out themselves. Some people work themselves to the bone and burn out. Some people do as little as possible and try to hide how much they're not working. To avoid all this, you want to teach time management early and often. And when you're teaching time management, you don't want to look at just professional time management. You want the whole picture. When we work with our people, we're looking at their whole lives. Like what are all the things you care about? So if you care about health and fitness and your family and your friends and travel and your career, well, how do you fit all those into a calendar? So we teach here, you want to have one master calendar and you want to make sure everything that you care about in your life can fit into one calendar. Now, for you as their coach, you've got to train this early and often. By the way, if you're not good at time management, get good at time management as soon as possible. But you want to teach them how to produce the results that you want out of them in less and less and less time. So it's not just about produce these results no matter what it takes. It's produce these results. Now, once they do that, okay, great. How do you do that in less time, right? Or how do you produce more results in the same amount of time? So super critical and important for any new hire that you're training time management early and often. Both extremes kill performance. So question we get asked a lot and a big mistake we used to make and something we're always training our managers on is how and when to check in on your team members, right? And I've made all these mistakes before, right? Where I've micromanaged and checked in multiple times a day, all the time. And then I've done it the other way where I'm complacent and I don't really check in at all until it's too late and their performance is so bad that it's so hard to retrain them out of it. So you really want to find this sweet spot between checking in with your team and giving them coaching, but not doing it too much. This will alter based off the employee. It'll alter based off the person. Some people, they thrive more autonomously. Some people need a little bit more check-ins, a little bit more, maybe mood work, maybe they're a little stressed out and they just want to talk it out with you. So you're not going to have, this isn't like a one size fits all for all employees. You're going to find the sweet spot with each employee. You want to make sure you're not going on either one of the extremes, because if you check in too much with high performers, they feel micromanaged, they feel distrusted, they're going to want to bail, or they'll resent you and just not work as well. If you check in too little, people might be failing and you're not going to catch it until, 2, 3, 4 weeks go by, which are just pretty much wasted weeks when you could have caught it earlier to elevate their performance. So one other little lesson here, in an employee's first 3 to 6 months, definitely err on the side of checking in too much if you're going to err one way or the other. After that, maybe you can space out a bit more, but since they're brand new, you do want to check in more often than not. And if you ever sense any resistance or defensiveness from someone, just remind them hey, I'm not going to check in on you this much forever. I just want to make sure, everything's working well. This is a very autonomous role, so I just want to make sure I'm helping you as much as I can. So find that sweet spot between checking in too little and too much. Training doesn't end when they start working solo. Okay, so a big mistake we used to make is thinking that training was over after the initial training of a new employee, especially if a new employee had great results and just came out of the gates on all cylinders, we would say, okay, their training's pretty much done. And we would just let them go do their thing. The problem with this is people pick up bad habits and they need to constantly be improving their craft. So as a business owner or manager, you want to make periodic check-ins with your team. That means at certain cadences, you want to go out and re-shadow and re-observe your people. You want to see if they've picked up any bad habits, and there's always room for improvement, right? So in our companies, we have a pretty good status rule where either every once a month or once a quarter, depending on their results, we'll go back in the field with an employee and just observe and shadow. Sometimes that observe and shadow is like, hey, you're doing things super great. Let's double down on all the things you're doing really well. And almost all the time, you're going to find one or two pieces of feedback to give them to elevate their performance. So never stop training and observing and coaching people. It definitely gets less over time, especially with high performers if you hired the right people, but you always want to get back in the field periodically to elevate their performance and ultimately, have your company make more money and have them make more money. Small issues grow into big problems. All right, so super common mistake we see, and one that we used to make a ton of, is stepping over the little things. And when I say little things, I mean like, someone showing up to a meeting consistently a couple minutes late, or, someone's language is being a little bit undermining. They say something like that client was crazy, or, that subcontractor was a jerk. Little things that they may not seem like big deals, but they are big deals, and here's why. When you step over little things, you train people that those little things are okay. And if those little things are okay, well, then maybe I'll do these medium-sized bad things, and then maybe I'll do these large-sized bad things. And when we used to do this in the past, all of a sudden, we'd get to a point where we'd have to let an employee go, and they would be shocked when, in our view, it was like, well, you're showing up late, you're disrespectful to clients, and all these things, but we had let them go for so long, it just made them think that that was okay. So early, like right away, don't step over the little things. If someone's late to a meeting twice in a row, pull them aside or give them a call after the meeting. Don't do it in front of everybody, but call them after the meeting and say, hey, just want to check in. You've been late to the last couple meetings. What's going on there? Okay, great. Can you please be on time going forward? Just because it matters for all of us and like everybody's time that we're all just on time. Is that okay? Can you do that? So when you find it early, it's way easier to handle. In this same example, if you let someone be late for 6 months and then you call them on it, it's going to be out of left field. They're going to be defensive and they're going to be just confused as to like, well, you've told me basically I can do this. So why now can I not? So don't step over the little things. Handle them when they're little before they turn into big things. If you don't ask, you won't know where they're at. So sometimes there can be a tendency to not talk to employees about their career growth, and also just their job satisfaction, right? And sometimes this is because we don't want to hear the wrong thing. We don't want to hear, problems. Sometimes we don't really, as far as future goes, like we don't know. Like we're not clear on the why and where our company's going. And so we don't want to overpromise about career growth, which is a good thing. Don't overpromise. There's a couple reasons why this doesn't work. One is if people aren't having a good time at their job, like if there's some things that just really are rubbing them the wrong way, if you find that out early, you can fix it. If you find it out too late, well, too late means they're telling you they quit. You want to be checking in on people. This isn't an all the time thing, but periodically just a quick convo like, hey, how are things going? Like, how are you enjoying the role? How are you enjoying the life balance? Are you working outside of work hours? Let's have you not do that. So you want to be talking about job satisfaction early and often. And then with career growth, especially with your high performers, or maybe only with your high performers, you want to be talking about where do they see themselves in this company, right? Like, hey, I noticed you've been doing a really good job. Are you loving the role? Great. Totally up to you, but where do you see your career path going? Do you want to stay in this career you're in? Do you see yourself going into management? Tell me more just like what your aspirations are. When you have these conversations with people, it has them so much more aligned in love with your company because they feel heard, first of all, and they know that you care. And for people who want to grow, and high performers typically want to grow, they now see a path for that, right? They see that you're thinking about it too. High performers will leave. If they hit a ceiling, they're just going to leave. Whether that's a financial ceiling or promotional growth ceiling, if they hit that, for a period of time, they will leave. So you've got to make sure you're always keeping those open and you're having those conversations with your employees. You can only drive people so hard without burning them out. So a big mistake you can make in management is driving results and driving more without talking about better, or more and more efficient. So it's funny, usually you make this mistake with high performers. People are performing at a high level, right? It's like, great, do more. Like with a sales rep, it's like, okay, you're booking, 6 out of 10 estimates. Well, let's have you do 15 estimates and you're going to book, 9 out of 15 estimates. The problem with this is there's just a limit. There's diminishing returns when you drive people so hard just in the work ethic realm. You definitely want people, work ethic matters. You gotta keep that as a main part of your business, but you also want to be coaching people on how to be more efficient. So, okay, great, you did 10 estimates. How much time did it take you? 30 hours? Cool. How can we cut that down to 25 hours? How can you produce the same amount of results, but in less time? This creates a better job environment, creates a better quality of life, and so then people actually perform better anyway. So big mistake we used to make was we just would try to drive more, and we would try to drive more, and then people get burned out and they would produce less results than even before we were driving them. So you can push for more, but also look and see where can they be more efficient? Where can they do the same amount of results in less time? Coach efficiency as much as output. High performers elevate both. If you want them to take feedback, you have to take it first. So in management, there's a tendency to try to look perfect, try to be the best, try to not show any flaws in yourself. And it's not for bad reason. You want to show confidence and show your people like what mastery looks like. The problem is you're not perfect. I'm not perfect. No one is. And so you want to actually show people when you make mistakes. So for example, if you're training an estimator on an estimate and you do a part of the process wrong, right? Like you do a pre-close the wrong way. After that estimate, when you debrief with your employee, tell them that. Say, hey, I did it this way, and it actually is better if you do it this way, and here's why. So show people that you're not perfect. Show them it's okay to make mistakes. When you do this, you also are indirectly planting in their brains to take feedback when you give them feedback. So this is huge. Like you want people to be feedback fiends. You want them to always be wanting to improve. So if you show them early and often that you take feedback, that you're always improving yourself, again, you're subconsciously planting that in their brain that it's okay to get feedback at your company. So give yourself feedback early and often. Ask your people for their feedback on your performance. Then you'll create a culture of feedback where it's just normal to always be improving yourself. Managing well is about consistency, not perfection. Fixing even a couple of these mistakes will raise performance, improve morale, and make your life as a leader way easier. If you're interested in the full management playbook that we use across $37 million in annual revenue in all our companies, check the link below in the description to learn more.